Across Iowa, communities are having important conversations about who we are, what we value, and how our shared history continues to shape our lives today. Through By the People, Conversations Beyond 250, Humanities Iowa partnered with local nonprofit Cultural and philosopher Scott Samuelson to bring programs focused on civic dialogue, storytelling, and connection to communities across the state.
Well, what should a people stand for? If we get to choose what we stand for, what should we stand for? How can we all live together? How is that even going to be possible? Can we have lofty goals, lofty ideals that actually work? And what can we learn from studying the history and political thought of ancient and modern?
Beginning in January 2026, Humanities Iowa brought By the People programs to schools, colleges, and public libraries throughout the state. Together, these programs created opportunities for Iowans of all ages to explore questions of identity, democracy, civic responsibility, and the experiences that shape our communities and our nation.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
A central component of By the People in Iowa was What Do We Stand For? A program exploring the philosophical ideals behind the founding of the United States and how those ideas continue to influence our lives today. Through conversation and reflection, participants examine questions that remain relevant more than 2 centuries later. What does the Declaration of Independence say we stand for as a nation? How do our shared ideals help shape the future we want to build?
I don't remember what was in the Declaration of Independence, and I think that people have, in a lot of cases, forgotten what's actually in there, or never knew what was in there, and I wish there were more chances for people to really learn what it means.
Decisions and work together and understand disagreements, and you get what I'm saying. Like, to me, I want an education that does that for people, that allows them to engage thoughtfully with big ideas, with what it means to be an American citizen, with what it means to be a person, but also respects the idea that there's going to be a lot of differences in how we think about that, and that if we can navigate that well, we'll all be better off.
Hosted at public libraries across Iowa, these programs encouraged participants to engage with history not as something distant, but as something that continues to shape the choices we make today. Iowa's By the People programming also included Open Book, a partnership between Cultural and Humanities Iowa, which uses reciprocal storytelling to create opportunities for empathy, understanding, and meaningful conversation. Through first-person stories and facilitated dialogue, participants explored the experiences that shape one another's identities and perspectives, and the different ways that people pursue happiness, meaning, and a sense of belonging in their lives.
Senior year, I had any concept of thinking about authenticity. I was just thinking about being who. I felt like this group really had some great experiences embracing their authenticity, and also feeling that this did encourage why would I even be here except for to give them a gift from myself to them, and I felt it was received.
I was really impacted by a woman who shared that she was a young mom, that she focused most of her life raising her 2 boys, and she had put her dreams on hold for them, and now she's 43, going back to school, has a house cleaning business, wants to be an accountant, but she's focusing on herself and giving to herself, and that really hit home for me, coming from a very similar background with a parent who basically did the same thing. So that was really special to hear tonight.
Branch, Iowa at Scattergood, and we spoke to students today. So Rose, what was your story about?
My story was about my childhood.
Okay.
It was just kind of the transition coming from a small town of war to, being able to integrate into a more developed country, and the struggle that goes with that, transitioning. In the beginning of my story, I asked that the students be with me in the emotional process of my story, because this was my first time telling the story, and I tell you, it was emotional for me because these are memories kind of resurfacing, and I was paying attention to every student, and it was just really heartwarming to see how much they were with me in those emotions. And afterwards, a few students approached me, and my question for the student was, how do they find that home? And there's this particular student that came and said, I've been looking for that. I've been looking for that home. How do I find it? How do I find it? I do this. I'm always, you know, for me, it was really, it was mind blowing to see that first of all, how much the students were with me in that journey and how much they reflected afterwards.
By sharing their stories and listening to the stories of others, participants were invited to consider what the pursuit of happiness can mean in real, lived experience, and how our individual stories contribute to the larger American story. Together, these programs demonstrated the power of humanities-based experiences to bring people together across differences. From classrooms to community spaces, By the People created opportunities for Iowans to ask important questions, listen to different perspectives, and consider the values that connect us. As our nation celebrates the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, these conversations remind us that the American story is not only something we inherit, it's something we continue to shape together.